Hey there. If you found this presentation, you probably have been charged with making a research poster for a symposium or a conference. And congratulations, it's been accepted somewhere. Someone wants to hear about your research. So how do you put together a poster? I'll walk you through how you can do this in a single PowerPoint slide. So your end result can look something like this. This is literally one single PowerPoint slide. And the title is at the top. There's a little graphic that's pulled in from PowerPoint that's made one little pop of color here. And then the components of your paper or whatever you're presenting. So if it's a scientific paper, you're going to have an overview or an introduction. You'll have a methods section, results, and discussion. Just take a look at the visuals here. And you can kind of see that the results section, including the little schematic, that's the bulk of what you see here on the poster. So the layout of this one, not so great, wasn't one of my favorites, but at least it has all the components here for you. The bottom left-hand side has selected references, and I'll walk you through that in a minute. And then if you need to acknowledge anybody, you can put that on the bottom of the poster as well. But all these different pieces, so if I click on them, they're all different little boxes on your slide itself. So it's a nice creative thing for you to get to do if you like art. If not, you might want to get one of your friends from the art department to just give you a couple pointers. But really important to be able to do your own work in putting this together. So how do you get there? I'm going to give you all the basics on this next slide. So this is really boring because this is our working section. So you're going to open up a new PowerPoint presentation, click on Page Setup, come on over in Page Setup, Slide Size 4, and choose Custom Size. And then you're going to choose inches, and you'll put in however wide you want it and however high you want it. The standard is 36 inches tall or high and 48 inches wide. Some conferences will accept larger posters, so make sure that you look at their requirements. Also make sure you make it landscape before you put so click on landscape over here. You don't want to necessarily overachieve and make it larger. Bigger kind of might be better, but you don't want to have to pay more than you would need to get your poster printed. So I'm going to click on cancel because I already have my slide here. And then just a little word before we get into the layout. Definitely add color to your poster, and little hint, dress to match your poster. So that it gives an overall better presentation. It will make you feel better, it will make you memorable, and if awards are given, anything that looks good kind of skews people, right? We know there's some psychology. So dress to match your poster. So I'm going to zoom in, hopefully not get too crazy here with our zooming, and let's go through the different components that are here on my slide. Up tippy top, poster title. And so if I come on over here to home, this is right now Arial 88 point. Whether you care for serif or sans serif fonts, up to you. Again, if your school has a format, you're going to have to use their format. But if not, be creative. But it's got to be readable. So with 88 point, this is pretty large. And you can make it larger or smaller as you need. And you can add color and graphics behind it. Below that, generally speaking in the center, authors. So authors in order, just like a publication. So if your advisor helped you with your research, make sure you know whether they want to be second author or third author, if there's a research assistant or a friend that you're working on a project with. So make sure you know that before you put this all together. And then affiliations, and you put a superscript next to the name. So with author, I could put in a little 1 here, and then I can format that as superscript in my little font here. I'm not going to go through all that right now, but you get the idea. And then put down your institution and your department, so on. So getting all of that done, that's kind of the easy visual piece. Then you can plug in these text boxes. So this is just a text box. So if I came up here and made another text box here, I could start writing. I'm going to not do that because I've already plugged this in for you. But we have our, oops, I can't get rid of that now. There we go. Introduction is 36 point bold type, and then I have content beneath. So if you're working from a paper that you've already done, you can just copy and paste the content in here to see what you have to work with and then cut it down. So it's true for your introduction and your methods section, and then the results, remember, you want it to be a little larger than you're seeing it here. And you do want to include in your results tables and graphs. So it gets kind of interesting if you think about having these building blocks here on your slide. You can then start, once you've got the content, move it around and start to resize things. But don't make the font too small and don't make it too busy. So right now our rather boring presentation is pretty ugly, but I've inserted a table here just by using Insert Table. And so I insert my table. If I'm doing, let's say if I'm presenting a systematic review, I can plug in my table here and make my table a fun color by choosing the design. Let's say we make it all seafoam green. That's probably not really good for contrast. Maybe I want to do my whole presentation in, I don't know, in blues or something like that. So you see it kind of, adding the color is just going to make this look just a whole lot better. So last sections here, and you can plug in charts, graphs, and things from your paper itself. So make sure that you put them in here and not too busy. And if you're going to use clip art, make sure, or photographs, make sure that you use royalty-free art. And here's a really interesting thing. I learned this actually. I had a couple students go to symposia where students receive research awards. Every time they did research that involved kids, they put pictures of cute kids on their posters, and they won every time. Just saying. So, you know, puppies, kittens, anything like that, you'd be surprised. So let's go down to references. I'll have a separate presentation on references a little bit later. But for now, how do you decide what to include? And there's a really something you want to think about. One is, if you're doing a systematic review, you're going to include your table, some table for your review in your poster itself. So your table's up here. Any study that you cite in the table needs to be listed as a reference because people have to know what you're using for your data. Now, if your poster is not a systematic review, if it's an outcome study or some kind of original research, anything like that, you're going to choose selected references from the overview or introduction of your paper. This tells people how you got to where you are. So that's why you have selected references. You don't have every single reference that you would have at the back of your bibliography. That would take over the whole table. So you want to make sure that you have selected references here. And if you do have a lot more references or a lot more material, one of the things that people sometimes do is put together just the bibliography or just the reference list and use that as a handout. So the other thing you can put at the bottom of your slide, I don't think do I have it over here? I don't think I do, is acknowledgments. And so you would just put acknowledgments somewhere at the bottom. And that's if your poster, let's say, is just your work and not your professor's, then you would list them as, acknowledge them and thank them for the work. So last little kind of hack for poster presentations is if you are applying for a job and you want to be, people to remember you, what you can do is you can select everything on the page, copy it, save it as a picture, and then put it in another document or presentation and print it out in 8.5 by 11. So you're handing out a miniature of your poster to people, and especially if you're looking for a job, that's a nice way to help them remember you. So I hope you've learned how to do your PowerPoint presentation in a slide format. Again, if I was doing this presentation again, I would show up wearing a green jacket or green shirt because I match it. It happens to be my favorite color. I would put a lot more color on this, including the tables, and just make it look a whole lot nicer. Last little thing about color, if you do something with just one color, it's going to be cheaper than doing a whole lot of color or full color when you print it. So I hope this helps. Congrats on your poster. Have fun and happy researching.